The night was supposed to be filled with celebration, laughter, and glittering chandeliers. Instead, it became the stage for a shocking humiliation I never imagined would come from within my own family. When the music slowed and the lights dimmed at the luxury birthday party, my mother-in-law walked toward me with a gift box wrapped in gold paper. Guests turned their heads, curious to see what grand gesture she had planned. She smiled with an elegance so practiced it could fool anyone, but not me. I had felt the chill in her gaze for years. I accepted the box, my heart pounding as whispers spread through the ballroom. Cameras from relatives' phones were already pointing in my direction. Slowly, I pulled off the ribbon, peeled away the shimmering paper, and lifted the lid. Inside, instead of jewels or perfume, I found a manila envelope. My hands froze. My mind screamed. Divorce papers. My own marriage, signed, sealed, and delivered, presented as a gift in front of everyone. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some laughed nervously, others shifted uncomfortably, but everyone's eyes locked on me. My husband stood frozen, not even moving to stop her. That silence from him burned more than the betrayal itself. My mother-in-law leaned closer and whispered, loud enough for the front row to hear, "This is the only gift you deserve." Her words cut sharper than broken glass. I stood there, smiling faintly, masking the storm inside me. Years of belittlement, criticism, and subtle jabs all boiled together in that single humiliating moment. She thought she had destroyed me. She thought she had won. But what she never knew was that I had been preparing for this night far longer than she had. I placed the papers back in the box and closed it slowly, as if savoring the moment. "Thank you," I said, my voice steady. The crowd erupted into awkward murmurs, confused by my composure. She had expected tears, screams, or maybe even me running out of the hall. What she got instead was a calmness that unsettled her more than any breakdown ever could. Behind that calm, I had a plan, crafted for months, perfected for this very evening. You see, my mother-in-law had spent years controlling the family name, the money, the reputation. She believed every birthday, wedding, or social gathering was her throne room. But tonight, she had unknowingly set the stage for her own undoing. The orchestra resumed playing, glasses clinked, and waiters rushed to distract the guests with champagne. But I could feel the tension lingering in the air like smoke. I excused myself, stepped away from the spotlight, and disappeared into the lounge where my closest allies were waiting. Two friends I trusted more than family handed me the final piece of my plan, a velvet pouch. Inside it was not jewelry, not money, but evidence. Years of messages, receipts, and recordings, her own words, her own actions, everything she thought was hidden. For too long, she had spread lies about me to relatives, tarnished my name in social circles, and whispered poison into my husband's ear until he believed her version of reality. But every time she tried to bury me, I kept records. Every insult became a stone I quietly stacked, building the wall of her downfall. And tonight, that wall would crash down. I returned to the ballroom with a smile that unsettled her polished confidence. She raised her glass, pretending nothing had happened, but I caught the flicker of doubt in her eyes. She had expected me to crumble. Instead, I stood taller than ever. The host announced it was time for toasts. She prepared her glass to deliver her usual speech about family honor and sacrifice. But before she could take the microphone, I stepped forward. The hall went silent. All eyes turned to me. My husband looked uneasy, shifting in his chair, unsure whether to stop me or let me speak. "Tonight," I began, my voice clear, echoing across the chandeliers, "I received a very special gift." Gasps echoed. Everyone knew what I meant. But sometimes, the best gifts are not the ones that try to break us. They are the ones that reveal who people truly are. I glanced at my mother-in-law, her lips pressing thin. I pulled out the velvet pouch. And since we are all among family, it is only fair that I give something back. My fingers opened the pouch and slid out a stack of photographs, printed messages, and letters. I held them high for the audience to see. These are the gifts my mother-in-law has been giving me for years. gossip, lies, and betrayals disguised as concern. The crowd stirred. Relatives leaned forward, curiosity igniting like fire. I passed the photographs to the nearest guests, who gasped as they saw proof of her manipulations, her private notes plotting against me, her schemes to control finances, even her whispered alliances with people outside the family. Her face turned pale. She tried to laugh it off, but the tension in the hall betrayed her. My husband grabbed the papers from one of the guests, his eyes scanning the proof. For the first time, doubt flickered in his expression. He looked at his mother, then at me, caught between the web she had spun and the truth unfolding before him. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I simply stood with dignity, letting the evidence speak louder than any revengeful words could. If divorce is what you want for your son and me, I said, then let him decide based on truth, not manipulation. The room buzzed with whispers. Some guests shook their heads at her. Others avoided her gaze entirely. The Queen of Control was losing her crown in real time, and she knew it. But this was only the beginning. I wasn't done. The velvet pouch held more, and each piece was sharper than the last. Tonight, she had handed me divorce papers. By the time this night ended, she would realize she had gifted me the perfect stage for her own exposure. And I was just getting started. Gasps still lingered in the air as my words echoed across the hall. The orchestra had gone silent, and even the waiters froze mid-step, holding trays of untouched glasses. My mother-in-law's face, once a portrait of confidence and authority, was now cracking in front of her loyal audience. Her lips trembled as she tried to force a smile, but no amount of elegance could disguise the storm building behind her eyes. She knew her empire of lies was crumbling. But I wasn't finished. The velvet pouch still had secrets left to unveil. Slowly, deliberately, I reached inside and pulled out a small silver flash drive. Gasps rippled again as I held it up. This, I said, contains the truth behind the whispers, the truth behind the stories that were spread about me, and the truth about the woman who wanted to destroy her own family just to feel powerful. Her eyes widened. She knew what it was. Months ago, she had whispered venom into phone calls, thinking no one was listening. She had sent messages late at night, believing they were hidden. She had arranged meetings in quiet corners, thinking shadows would protect her. But she never knew that every word was being collected, every step carefully documented. I gestured to the DJ booth, and within seconds, the speakers came alive. The first recording echoed through the hall, her unmistakable voice. He deserves better than her. She will never be enough for this family. I will make sure she's gone. The guests gasped, some covering their mouths, others exchanging shocked glances. My husband's face turned pale. His mother's words, undeniable and crystal clear, stabbed the air like daggers. The recording continued, revealing her strategies, how she manipulated bank accounts, how she spread rumors to damage my name, how she convinced her son that I was the enemy. Every sentence was like a hammer breaking the mask she had worn for years. She lunged forward, screaming, "Stop this at once." But the security, hired by the hosts and loyal to the family reputation, held her back. She struggled, her carefully constructed grace dissolving into raw desperation. The guests stared in disbelief, watching the once proud matriarch reduced to frantic chaos. I didn't raise my voice. I simply looked at her and said, "You handed me divorce papers tonight, believing you were ending my story. But what you did was give me the perfect audience for yours." The crowd erupted into murmurs, nodding, whispering, pointing. The truth had been laid bare, and there was no hiding from it. I turned to my husband. His hands trembled as he held the stack of evidence I had already revealed. His eyes darted between me and his mother, torn apart by betrayal. For the first time, I saw him not as my partner or as her son, but as a man standing at a crossroads. His silence was louder than any outburst. The music of the recordings ended, leaving behind a haunting quiet. I stepped forward, calm but unyielding. I am not here to beg for love, or to fight for a title in this family. I am here for dignity. Tonight, You will all see that no matter how powerful someone pretends to be, truth will always strip them bare. Guests nodded, their whispers turning into agreement. Aunts who had once believed her lies looked at her with disgust. Friends who had once admired her wealth now saw only corruption. Her kingdom was collapsing, one truth at a time. She tried to laugh, a shrill, broken sound that echoed awkwardly across the marble floor. You think this makes you strong? You think these people care about your dignity? They will forget you tomorrow. But even her words sounded hollow now, drained of authority. I smiled, not cruelly, but with the calm of someone who had waited years for this moment. They don't need to remember me, I said. They only need to remember what you did. The room shifted. For years, she had been the center of attention, the queen of every gathering. But tonight, the spotlight burned her instead of lighting her crown. And I, once her shadow, was finally standing in the light. Suddenly, my husband rose. His chair scraped against the marble floor, echoing louder than any word. He stepped toward his mother, the evidence still in his hand. How could you? His voice cracked, raw with betrayal. You destroyed everything. You destroyed us. Her face twisted. She reached for him, but he pulled away. For the first time, she felt the distance of her own son, the very person she had claimed to protect. The audience fell silent, watching the intimate collapse of a bond that once looked unbreakable. I remained silent, allowing the weight of the moment to sink in. This wasn't just my revenge, it was justice unfolding. She hadn't just tried to ruin me, she had poisoned her own bloodline, and now the venom was consuming her. I looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of every guest. This party was meant to be a celebration. And it still is. Tonight, we celebrate the truth. We celebrate the end of manipulation. And most importantly, we celebrate the freedom that comes when masks are torn away. Applause erupted, not thunderous, but steady, growing louder as more people joined. Each clap was a nail sealing the coffin of her influence. She staggered, her strength draining, as the very people she had ruled with whispers turned against her. My husband dropped the papers, the manila envelope that had started it all, onto the floor. He didn't look at her again. Instead, he looked at me, eyes filled with regret, with realization, with the heavy weight of choices made under her influence. But I didn't move toward him. Not yet. My story was no longer about proving myself to him. It was about proving that no one, not even the most powerful, could strip me of my dignity. The orchestra began to play again, hesitant at first, then stronger. Guests resumed their seats, though the energy in the room had shifted forever. The luxury birthday party, meant to crown her as the center of attention, had turned into the stage of her downfall. And as I stood there, calm and steady, I knew this was only the beginning. Revenge wasn't about anger or destruction. It was about reclaiming power, about standing tall when someone tries to break you. She thought the divorce papers would end me. Instead, they gave birth to a version of me she could never control. The night was far from over. There were still more secrets in the velvet pouch. Still more truths waiting to rise. And I was ready to reveal them one by one until there was nothing left of the mask she had worn for so long. This was no longer her party. This was mine.